Hey everybody, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be using this gsub function in order to remove characters from variables that should be numbers so that we can convert them into numbers. So if we just take a quick look at our revenue data set, we can see that we've got a date and we've got a revenue column, and this revenue column has a $sign and it also has a comma. And so, already you kind of start to think, well, the $sign and the comma are fine in numbers in general, but if we want to actually make numeric calculations, then those are character strings, and R doesn't really know what to do with those. So if we take a look at what our data set type or variable types are inside of our data set, we see that our revenue variable is in fact a character. So if I try to do something like revenue, and then I do revenue numeric, right? And then I just run this as.numeric function, and I try to run that on revenue, then we see this NA is introduced by coercion. And if we take a look at our revenue data set, we see that all of these are NAs. The reason that all of these are NAs is because they all have this $sign. So when R runs that as.numeric function, it's trying to convert all of this into a number, and the $sign makes it so that can't happen, and also the comma makes it so that can't happen. So in order to actually convert this column into a numeric column, we need to use this gsub function. And so I provided a little explanation of what it does. You have 3 arguments inside of it. What do you want to replace? What do you want to replace it with? And where is it that you want to make that replacement? So if we do revenue, and then we do, I'm going to call this new revenue. And this new revenue is going to remove our $sign, and we're going to replace it with nothing. And then where do I want to do that is inside of the revenue data set at the revenue column. So if I run that code, we would expect to see that maybe that $sign is gone, but you will see that it is not gone. And the reason it's not gone is because this $sign, think about it as like a protected character. R doesn't really know what to do with it. So what we have to do is we have to do these 2 backslashes to escape that character and actually write it kind of as it is. So now as we do this revenue and I look at head of revenue, we see that this $sign is now gone. So these 2 escape characters are necessary, or these 2 backslashes are necessary to escape special characters like a $sign, an and sign, things like that. So now that we've replaced the $sign, we want to now replace the comma. So now if I do, I'm going to call this new revenue 1, and this is going to gsub our comma, and we're going to replace it with nothing. And where is it that we're going to do that? We're going to do that with our revenue, and then let's do that with our new revenue, the one that we just created that doesn't have the $signs. And let's take a look. So now we can see we don't have any of those special characters in there anymore. But if we run the str on our revenue, we see that our job is not yet done. So there's this white space here. We shouldn't have to do anything with that. That should actually be fine. So I'm going to ignore that for now. So now all we need to do is go revenue, and then we're going to do a new revenue, and I'm going to call this new revenue 2 just to keep all the existing columns there. And we're going to do as.numeric of revenue, and then new revenue 1. And so now if we look at str revenue, we see that our revenue column is finally filled with numbers. So we have the 307, the 557, and then this. So if I were to do something like sum of revenue, new revenue 2, we can actually get the total revenue for the month of June. But if I were to do this for new revenue 1, which is still a character, we don't have the ability to sum that because they aren't actually numbers. So now, this is all great. There's a handful of code here, right? So these are all separate lines. So you might be wondering, can we just do these 2 lines all in one line? And the answer to that is yes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to reload in my data set. I'm going to clear out the console a little bit, and we'll keep this stuff here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this new column inside of this smaller data set. So now putting it all together in one gsub function. Okay, so now revenue, and I'm going to call this revenue clean. And what we can do is we can do our gsub, and we can effectively take each of these 2 parts and combine them together. So we need to remove those $signs. And then we also need to remove the comma. And the way that we can say, hey, remove the $signs and the comma is with this pipe here. And then we can put our comma there. So this is saying, hey, remove, if you see a $sign, or this pipe is kind of an or, if you see a comma, then make this replacement. And again, that replacement we want is nothing. And then we want to replace that inside of revenue of the revenue column. So now if we look at our head of revenue, we see that we've now cleaned that all in one. I'll do you one better. We can also take this as.numeric here, and we can actually wrap that around our gsub. So we can just as.numeric and all around our gsub, and then as we run the str on that new revenue, we see that we can do what we did up here in 3 separate lines, all just in one really clean line of code. And so that's how we remove numbers. So the next thing I'm going to show you is just kind of putting it together inside of dplyr, where it can make our code a little bit more readable still. So here I'm just going to call this a new revenue dataset, and I'm going to reload my existing revenue file, and we're going to take our revenue dataset, and what we want to do within that is we want to mutate we want to effectively add a new column. And so I'm going to call this revenue clean. And then inside of this, we can just take, let's take this, right? So we're going to take revenue clean 1, let's say, and we'll clean that. And then the second step, we can just do revenue clean. And now we can do as.numeric of revenue clean 1. And then we don't need the revenue clean 1, so we can select out, select minus revenue clean 1 to get rid of that column. And then as we, I still have these $signs in here, so we don't need those, and that should be good. And then we can take a look at our new revenue data set, and now we've got everything in here that's good. So we have our date, we have our revenue, and even though we did the revenue clean in 2 steps, we only see this one column here because of that select. And so that's how we put it all together into a really clean, easy to read dplyr function that cleans a character string that should be a number and turns that actually into a number so we can make proper calculations with it. So if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe on the video. And if you have any suggestions on videos you would like to see in the future, please let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one.